Welcome to Dave Talks Some More, the podcast at the intersection of humor and, Hey, I'm your host, Dave, and together we'll explore a riveting world of mundane topics with unparalleled indifference. So get ready for a riveting journey through,
whatever.
This is Dave Talks Some More. All right, far out, man. Thanks for joining us. Every week we have to decide, are we going to go with a live shot of me while the intro's playing, or we do the thing with the dog and the microphone and just have that up there? Yeah. And well, we ought to do that for the entire show, is just have the dog and the microphone for the entire hour. It'd probably be more engaging. So as ever, we're joined by Dr. Guy. What you up to, kid? How you feel?
I'm feeling good. Other than stressed about my Rebels.
It's I'm glad that the game isn't up, because it'd be like a wife talking to a husband, be like, yeah, all right. You'd be watching the game.
Well, I'm streaming it over here on my iPad.
Oh my God! Well, there's going to be this is you doing a podcast is like driving drunk. You've got and texting. Driving drunk,
I can do it.
Texting and driving.
Let me tell you,
I
was great at driving drunk.
I can't. Especially practiced and well practiced.
Especially when I had like LSD on board, or some sort of amphetamine. I was like, oh yeah, alcohol doesn't bother me at all.
What they really need instead of NASCAR is drunk NASCAR. Everybody has
that might actually be canceled.
I think that would be awesome. Like you start off with a shot, and then every 5 laps you come in and take another shot, and it'll be, I don't know how long the race needs to be. It'd just be the last man standing, right?
We'd have to have some sort of bumper car and full body armor.
Absolutely. No, I think that's an idea. I think that's got legs.
I mean, basically, that has been done for a very long time in the form of the old demolition derby.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you can rest assured that every one of those jackasses were drunk and high as a kite.
Well, and they used to have that on, like in the South, the Saturday afternoon demolition derby. And I wonder if you remember when they had roller derby.
Oh yes.
Okay, you are old enough. Just kind of these weird.
They had a great movie
sports.
about it.
Well, yeah, rollerball was good. But just kind of these weird sports. And then the one that I'll never forget is Mid-South wrestling. And debating with people about whether it was real or not. And I never could, I knew that the wrestling wasn't real. What I never could quite suss out was the people who were watching the wrestling, and then in Sunday school the next morning, they really acted like they believed it, and they were really excited for next week's matchup. And I'm like, wait, you're just putting me on. You also know this is fake, don't you? Don't you?
Them fighting words.
Yeah, exactly. So
those are absolutely fighting words in the South.
So,
I always thought it was the dumbest thing ever. I know we briefly touched on it last week, but yes, totally rigged. Now, they physically, it is.
It's demanding.
It is demanding physically.
So you were in Oxford, I guess, over the weekend to watch the Rebs play in the regional. How, before you talk about the action on the field, how would you describe the scene in Oxford this weekend?
Actually, it was very low key.
Really?
Yes. I went and ate at Tico's, where Parker.
Oddly enough.
Yeah. Friday night, we got there early. I felt like I was, the true, octogenarian or something. I was there at 4:45
for the early bird special.
Anyway, the steak was phenomenal. My baked potato was great. My salad was awesome. Got to even bring my own styrofoam cup in.
There you go.
And went to the square was really not very crowded. There wasn't a whole lot going on in Oxford other than the tournament. Now,
I get the schools out, but
Ole Miss had the estimate was somewhere between 15 and 17,000 were at the game, but I think the recorded number was just around 12,000. But Parker told me, and when I talked to him after the game that night, I was like, "Well, how'd y'all do?" He was like, "Terrible." And I was like, "Really?" He goes, "Well, all of our customers were at the game."
Yeah.
And he goes, "All of the Georgia Tech fans and the Hilltoppers, they didn't come to eat on the square." So they weren't too thrilled about it, but they had a really good night last night because Ole Miss was not playing last night.
Right. So. I did not see 15,000 people in the stands. There's no way.
It was packed all the way around. I mean, it was standing room only in the standing room only section all the way down first base line.
Wow.
I mean, it was 4 or 5 people deep up there.
I mean, I hate to sound like arrogant LSU guy, but LSU didn't draw any real competition in their regional, or so far hasn't. And so I just assumed wins. And I thought Ole Miss will be the team to watch this weekend.
But every team in our regional is actually really good.
Well, Ole Miss is just playing these games where they can't get ahead and they can't get behind without making a tie score. And I guess when I left the house, I don't want to
take anything away from our Friday night opponent, but Ole Miss had 5 balls in their gloves in that game.
Yeah.
And they did not end up making the out. One resulted in a home run where it bounced out of his glove over the fence.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, and you had a play today where your shortstop bounces the ball into first base, and then the first baseman can't catch it.
That wasn't a great throw, but do you know how many times over the years coaching, playing, I have seen, the first baseman is supposed to catch that ball 100% of the time.
Yeah,
they have a glove that's designed specifically to catch those.
That's what I was going to say is the second baseman, the shortstop, and the third baseman, their job is to catch kind of the hot shots, and then the first baseman's job is to pick it. And, it was a bad throw from the shortstop. It was a bad catch or non-catch from the first baseman.
Well, really, Furness, who, he's been with us. He was on our national championship team in 2022. Furness's dad, of course, played at LSU, Hall of Fame baseball player.
Oh, yeah.
Well, Furness has not been hitting the baseball the whole entire weekend. He has made, I think, 3 different errors in 3 games. Dropping balls that were easily or making poor throws to the pitcher, when he fields the ball. He's just, I don't know what's going on with him, but he has definitely been a liability, not producing offense and causing runs on the defense.
Well, I've said it many times. The big difference that I notice between college ball and Major League Baseball is the defense in major leagues, they just don't screw up. They just don't screw that up. The shortstop doesn't make a bad throw. The first baseman doesn't miss the pick. They don't have balls bounce out of their gloves and over the stands, over the wall for a home run. I mean, they always make the play, always, every time, and sometimes make crazy, spectacular plays behind third base.
The right fielder yesterday had a ball, pop, literally. Right. It was a routine pop-up.
Yeah.
And it hit his glove and bounced out. And they scored runs as a result of that.
That almost never happens in Major League. But the other thing that's such a big difference between pros and college is in college, for some reason, is every athlete insecure or needs his mama because every time that they get a hit, they got to make a big deal out of it. If they hit a sac bunt, they got to make a big deal out of it. If the pitcher comes out of the game, everybody pours out of the dugout and they form a reception. They form a reception line so that he can get a high five, like he's getting a military wedding and they're crossing swords over his path. And it is the most, what are you doing? Act like a man. act like a man instead of needing to be touched up every time you do something. Oh my God, you want a juice box and a medal?
Well, I think part of
get
that.
it.
I think part of that too is the college atmosphere in terms of the fans, and certainly, I mean, Ole Miss was fourth in the country in total fans attendance. LSU and State were above them by, I don't know, 500 about average attendance, and then there was one other team up there. But my point is that you've got rabid college fans that are there and they're yelling and they're doing all the things that typically when you go to a pro game, you don't have any of that. I mean, in the playoffs, you have that, but during a regular season game on a Tuesday night, I mean, you just don't have that. I mean,
no, but you don't really have that in college ball, except for, the big raucous teams. I mean, there are a lot of college baseball teams that don't have a big fan turnout, and still the players are coming out and high-fiving and hugging each other and, giving them hickeys on the neck. It's what it reminds me of is, I don't know when it started, but in basketball, every time a guy goes to the free throw line and shoots a free throw, as soon as he shoots the free throw, make or miss, he's got to turn around and touch up everybody. Have you noticed this?
Well, that's been going on in the NBA for years.
It's been going on for years, and I don't understand why I need to get touched up every time I shoot a free throw. Every time that I have a sacrifice bunt, I need everybody to come out and high five me as if you didn't expect me to do it, and you're amazed. Oh my God, you laid down a sack bunt.
Well, gone are the days that when my father played and you were supposed to act as if.
Act like you've been there before. That's what they always said.
That's long gone. As a matter of fact, that's been gone from college sports and really NBA and NFL.
And in the pros.
That's what I'm saying, even in the pros. That's been gone for 30 years.
I'm old enough to remember when people really were pissed off about the end zone celebrations. There was a guy that played for the Houston Oilers. Well, you get 5 points if you remember this guy's name. Played for the Houston Oilers, who really made all these. He was a wide receiver, made these big celebrations.
Billy White Shoes Johnson.
Damn, you get the 5 points. Wow,
yeah.
Good for you.
I don't even have to finish the rest of that.
Wow.
He had his dance with his little white shoes. He'd bend his knees together.
Yeah, and it just pissed people off because they're like, you got, act like you've been there before. Act like a man. Act like you expected to do it.
Dad played for Coach Vaught at Ole Miss, and I mean, if you did anything like that, you were likely to ride the pine the rest of the game.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, it's just people ask me what this podcast is about, and I say, us, a couple of old white guys that think they're funny, just talking about how the world's gone to hell.
I know I'm funny.
Well, and I know the world's gone to hell, so we got the whole thing polished off.
Yeah, the 1-2.
Well, we were talking about the fans and how crowded it was in Oxford. One of the things that I always notice when I'm watching baseball games is, like you say, sometimes it can get a little boring, 9 innings is a long, 54 outs is a lot of waiting around. And I will find myself staring down the fans that are behind the batter, behind the umpire. They're the ones that have the choice premium seats, and just looking at them to see if there's anything interesting going on. Every now and then, there'll be the guy that's just eating the entire 9 innings. And I'm thinking, how do you do that? Or the guy who's just staring at his phone. It can be bases loaded, bottom of the ninth. Guy's just sitting there looking at his phone, scrolling through TikTok. And I'm more obsessed with, are you going to look at the game at all? Or watching people? My favorite is watching the couples that are obviously pissed off at each other, and they had an argument on the way to the game, and they're just kind of, you can just kind of read the body language.
The thing that there's 2 pet peeves when I go to baseball games, certainly college games that I have, which is, one is the group of people that are always yelling at at the runner on first base, like when there's a pickoff play, and they all yell back, like, he's not smart enough to pay attention.
No.
He's just,
you got it.
You have to tell
in the stands had to tell. He doesn't have a first base coach right there 3 feet away from him.
The other is all of the people that are not sitting, okay, directly behind home plate, which is about 99% of the fans in the stadium. They know balls and strikes
better than the umpire.
The umpire. Like, how can you not call that?
Well,
God.
I mean,
you can't see the angle on whether it's inside or outside from where you're sitting. But yet this guy, he coached T-ball and, he knows baseball.
Yeah.
It's like, shut up, dude.
I'm way down the first base line. I can't see the up but down, the left, the right. But, that was clearly a strike. The other thing that they'll do is when the pitcher spins around to throw it, to pick off the guy on second base and doesn't throw the ball, everybody starts screaming balk because nobody knows what the balk rule is. I mean, it's a perfectly legal play, but it just drives people nuts. He didn't step off the rubber.
Well, so Hunter Elliott pitched yesterday for Ole Miss, and I think he led the SEC this year in pickoffs on first base. Of course, he's a left-handed pitcher,
which helps.
He does have an advantage, but he's one of the best in the game. I mean, he's really, really refined his pickoff move. Well, I mean, all of the refs. I mean, umpires. They know what kind of a move he has.
That's right.
And so every single time yesterday that he was pitching, that he would make the play, and he got, I don't know if he got 2 people out. I know he got 1 person out early. Every single time that he would do it, the whole entire fan base would scream, ball! And so for some reason, all of the Ole Miss fans around me decided to respond accordingly. And so you'd hear, balk! And then you'd hear, no, sir! And then these 2 jokers who were sitting next to us, they had obviously bought their tickets. I don't know. I mean, I was sitting in the Diamond Club. They did not look like Diamond Club regulars. And they decided that they were going to scream balk at every time the opposing pitcher would go to pitch. Not when he was trying to make a pickoff move, but, it was like
every wind up.
And they started making like chicken noises. And I was like, I was sitting with a friend of mine. I just kept saying, these jokers think that they're just hilarious, and they're not.
They should be on the podcast.
After the 50th balk that they've yelled at, I'm like, dude, will y'all just shut up?
Yeah, the joke's
over.
It's
not funny.
Well, like you say, they're in the Diamond Club. Where they belonged is in the outfield. And they kept in the broadcast, they kept cutting back to the outfield, and I'm sitting there going, I wonder what the combined composite blood alcohol content reading of the Ole Miss outfield fans sitting out there, because I've been out there and you can't see anything. If you see a home run ball coming to you, you might pick it up, but otherwise it's just sitting out there blowing your brains out and getting splashed with beer.
Well, so the left field is nothing but a bunch of the fans that most of them local that are going to grill out every game. They've got their spots, and I've got some friends that are frequent grillers. And then, of course, all the college students are in the right field, in the real shitty seats, getting hammered. But the parents are hammered in left field, too.
Oh, yeah. The parents are worse.
Well,
the parents are
they're not doing
worse.
the beer showers like all the students.
No. Yeah, they're hitting it hard. Well, it's, what's always interesting to me about the region, this is about the only time I watch college baseball. And what's interesting about the regionals that you don't see in the conference tournament or the super regional or the conference World Series is you've got to play up to 5 games.
If you don't win the first game.
Yeah, if you don't win the first or the second game, you've got to win the first 2 games to say I'm only going to play 3.
If you can win the whole thing playing 3 games.
Right.
And then if you lose first or the second game,
you
the only way that you can win is you got to play 5 in 4 days.
Right.
So it's brutal.
Yeah. And so what happens is it's not really a fair I don't want to say not a fair contest. It's not a fair test of what your team really is, because it means you've got to get the 7th and 8th starter, the guys that would never see a pressure situation in the regular season. You're telling them you got to go pitch 2 innings in an elimination game.
Your freshman backup midweek game.
Right. Yeah. Go in there, pitch, get me 6 outs, and if you don't do it, then we're gonna be eliminated and the season will be over. I mean, that's a position that they've never been in. No pressure at all. Just get out there. Give me my 6 outs.
Ole Miss, by most accounts, has one of the best bullpens in the entire SEC this year.
They're going to need it.
Well, I mean, but Friday night, I mean, our starter got pulled early, and so
that was a disaster.
And so we went to our bullpen, and of course they were hitting our best mid relievers.
Yeah, just killing them.
Well, so then yesterday we got into a slugfest, and we pitched a lot of guys, and so today we're in a slugfest, and we're not. By the way, Ole Miss he pitched 2 innings today, but our Sunday starter has been injured since I think the Auburn series before the SEC tournament. And so he did not take the mound today to start the game.
Well, as we go to press at 5:30 Sunday afternoon, the SEC teams that are still in it, still alive, long list. Texas and Oklahoma, which I kind of forget are in the SEC, Kentucky, Mississippi State.
Well, Oklahoma won. They won a who were they playing? They were playing Oregon State.
I don't remember. But teams that are SEC teams definitely in: Texas, Oklahoma, Kentucky, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Auburn, Arkansas, LSU. Ole Miss, as we speak, is fighting for their lives. How they doing?
Ole Miss is there is a pitching change. It is the bottom of the 8th, and Ole Miss has taken a 2-run lead, 11-9.
Oh, okay.
And pitching change. So Ole Miss is the home team. If they can, they're going to obviously bring in Spencer, their closer. Hopefully they can hold on to that.
Well,
let's see. So Kentucky actually they beat Clemson today.
Yeah.
So Clemson, which was the number 1 regional seed, they're out. Georgia lost to Oklahoma State. They're a number 1 regional seed. They're out. Mississippi State is playing out of the losers bracket. They beat Northwestern today.
Yeah. Well, I'll just list
Northeastern. So Mississippi State's still in.
Well, yeah, I'll just go through the list. In Texas, Kentucky, Oklahoma State, Tennessee, Auburn, Arkansas, LSU. Out, Bama, Georgia, Florida, and God almighty, Vanderbilt, number 1 seed overall, loses to Wright State. 5 more points if you
Arkansas
can tell.
Still in.
Yeah, I listed them. 5 points if you can tell me what league Wright State plays in. Hard one. Wright State.
Sunbelt?
Anybody? The Horizon League. I've never even heard of the Horizon League. So Vanderbilt, the first number 1 overall to not even make it to the Super Regional. But here's the
Since when?
Ever. This has never happened. That a number 1 has not even made it to the Super Regional. But what's most important about this number 1, about Vanderbilt being over, their season being over, is we no longer have to endure the blankety-blank damned Vandy Whistlers. They should die already. We're so sick of them. I can't believe, and I didn't realize there were actually 2 of them.
There's 2 of them.
But the one that started this abomination from hell is named Preacher Franklin, and how he has not been beaten up in the stands.
Oh, he's gotten in fights.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how he still has his teeth. I really don't. He is that absolutely annoying. It amazes me.
I don't know why he hasn't.
Why do they put up with this?
Why the SEC allows it to continue?
Well, why do they allow cowbells to continue? Damned if I know. But he does it in the opposing team. He will go to the opposing team and do it, and they must have cops all around him to keep him from just getting. I mean, I'm not saying that it should happen.
Look,
I'm just amazed it hasn't
I
happened.
saw him in Oxford. I don't know how many years ago this was. I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, maybe. I mean, he was getting hammered by people. I mean, people throwing drinks at him, yelling at him, spitting on him. I mean, it's like, what do you get out of that? Anyway.
Just some kind of weird, sick pride. But anyway, he's gone. He can go whistle somewhere else. I got ideas where he can go. Here's the other thing. I forgot this. I was talking about the difference between college and Major League Baseball. This is so weird to me. Coaches going and talking to guys in the middle of an at-bat, or going and talking to the pitcher in the middle of an at-bat.
It happened today with Ole Miss.
Yeah, I remember. That's when I wrote the note.
You saw it, yeah.
That is so weird to me. Let the guy go up and do his job. Let him do his job.
Well, the whole reason that the coach was doing it today was just to go up there and have some backhanded way of saying some shit to the umpire who didn't like his call.
Yeah, well, I get that there's always a reason to be doing it. It's just, I don't know. It is just so small to me. So, I've got ideas about how to make college baseball better. And here's another thing. How about having the game not last 5 hours, as this one is going to?
Do you know what the first inning went?
Oh, like 2.5 hours.
No, the first inning today went 40.
It was 3 days.
Was 40. I'm sorry. Wait, was it 51 or 49? It was basically almost 50 minutes.
You can drive from California to New York in the time that it takes to watch one of these college baseball playoff games. It's just murder. By the way, is this it for Bianco? If they don't make it out of this regional,
no.
Isn't he the longest tenured SEC baseball coach? Is this it?
No, he's not he's the longest tenured at one school. I mean,
that's what I mean.
Slauson,
yeah, that's what I mean. Is this it, or has he earned yet more time?
No, I don't think they're definitely not firing him. Why would they?
Why would they?
I mean,
I have a few ideas.
I just don't. I mean, look, he's built one of the premier SEC, teams in the league, and I just don't see it. And he's earned so much goodwill. Plus he loves it there. Now there has been some rumors, and the scuttlebutt is that he's considering retiring, and just.
I know any number of people that'd be happy to see it happen.
So I don't know. I think he's definitely a better coach than he was 10 years ago.
Okay.
I mean, I do. I mean, the way that he handles pitchers is different than it was 10 years ago. The way that he handles situational, baseball is different than it was 10 years ago. The big criticisms that most people had with him was really the way that he handled pitchers, and for the most part, he doesn't do that anymore. The knock was always he let him go too far.
Right.
I mean, shit. Today he's been yanking them.
Yeah, he's been yanking them left and right.
But he's been doing that for a few years. I mean, that started before we made it to Omaha in 2022.
The last baseball note I'll make has nothing to do with college. You didn't notice this, but I did. Colorado Rockies lost 5-3 to the New York Mets. The reason that's important, that was game number 59 for the Colorado Rockies. 59 games. They still have not managed to win 10 games this season. They are 9-50, which means they're on track to have 25 wins over 162 game season. They're on track to have 25
wins.
When
have the Rockies been good?
They've made it to the World Series before. The reason that's important.
Wasn't that like 25 years ago?
It's been a minute. I
mean, they made it rather quickly, considering when they came in the league.
Well, look, everybody knows that franchise needs to get pulled. Miami needs to get pulled. Tampa Bay needs to be relocated, and the Diamondbacks are kind of on life support. I mean, that's you could cut the league back from 30 to 28 teams, and 2 of the teams are in desperate need of being relocated. But the point I was going to make about the Rockies They're on track to win 25 games over a 162 game season. The team with the worst record in all of the history of Major League Baseball, which goes back over 100 years, is, do you know, another 5 point, New York Mets, and they won 40. And this team is going to win 25. I mean, it is just absolutely brutal. So it's, you know, every now and then there's a team in some sport that is so bad that you're kind of on death watch to say, how long until Arkansas wins an SEC football game? How long until the Colorado Rockies can manage to get
the Buccaneers were,
win?
and then, you know,
Yeah,
they ended up winning it all.
Yeah. I mean, when I'm more excited about a team losing every game in the NFL than a team winning every game in the NFL. I'm just, can they really be that bad? I mean, it's a cheap thrill. But yeah, it said that'd be it for baseball. But
okay, so
my last sports thing.
Yes, yeah. Because I want to get to some of our stuff like the president of France.
Well, is it really true that the SEC is leaving the NCAA, as has been promised by Greg Stanky? Says 3 years from now, in the 2028-2029 season, the SEC is leaving, not just in football, gone. No,
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, not college.
I thought it was just football.
Not college.
The rumor before the statement came out
that it was going to be just football.
And then so I saw the statement. What was that, on Thursday?
Yeah, I think that's right.
And the
can it be?
It would be great. I'm not sure what it ultimately means. I mean, you just don't have any oversight. I mean, the SEC becomes
a pro league.
Yeah, I mean,
it becomes a pro league, as it kind of already is.
I mean, but you're not doing that unless the Big Ten is a part of that.
Which will happen. Yeah, that'll happen, and it will just be the new. It will be like when the AFC started their own league outside of the NFC and in the NFL, and you know, this is just going to be a separate league that'll also play in autumn. I think it's going to be wild. Looking forward to that. You want to talk about, I don't know why, but you wanted to talk about Mrs. Brigitte Macron, I knew this was going to happen.
Well, you know what happened?
He ain't listening to nothing. He's watching.
You know what happened?
Miss.
This idiot first baseman just missed another ball.
Yeah, previously mentioned. And will the shortstop bounce it again? Yes, he does. He bounces it.
Well, that was a long throw, but you've got to catch that ball.
It's like he's throwing softballs.
You got to catch it. Anyway, 1 out, top of the ninth.
God, this is
runner on first.
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
That's
moving on. That's the only time you've caught me.
The death of the show.
You caught me looking right.
Yeah. I mean, I knew this.
We take it down, but I love it.
Yeah, I knew that. Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here trying to. I really do feel like this is what it's like to be married, to be the lady.
Now you're understanding how Bonnie feels when she's trying to talk to you.
By the way, I'm pregnant. That's nice, honey. That's great. Yeah, I maxed out the credit card. Okay, glad you got what you wanted, honey. I mean, this is just murder.
Well, Macron.
Yeah, well, no, we talked about that for 5 minutes.
No, we did not. You were laying out the thing.
Did you see the thing?
I mean, it was clearly not a playful thing.
No, it was. The best part is when after she's kind of slapping him a little bit, and they both been tussling. You can tell because the flight attendant looked like she'd been beat up. It was wild. And then he turns around when he realizes that the door to the airplane is open, like, oh crap.
Oops. And then he's like, oh, hey.
Yeah, hey, everything's good. What I had not realized was how I knew that there was a age difference between them. What I didn't realize, which is, he's 45, she's 72. But what I thought was really interesting isn't so much the age difference, but when they started dating, she was
17-year age difference?
She was 39. It's let's see, what would that be? 27 years. That can't be right. 24 years. When they started dating, It's not so much the age difference, is that when they started dating, she was 39, he was 15.
Shut up.
He was 15, and she was his drama teacher at Amiens High School.
They put people in jail for that.
Yeah, over here they put you in jail. Over there, you just get married and it's fine. I thought that was that was an interesting story. So Brigitte, it reminded me a little bit of the fake Melania stories that were floating around. Did you follow this at all when fake Melania was such a big? Did you ever see fake Melania?
No, I never saw this.
There was such a person as fake Melania who was like 3 inches shorter and clearly not quite as attractive. Well, there was a fake Joe Biden who was like 3 inches taller than real Joe Biden.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, they had a fake Joe Biden that would sometimes go out on the portico at the White House. This is true. I'll send you the clips. Who was clearly like much taller.
Those were camera angles. I saw all
no,
that.
There was
that was just
that
was just some silly right wing thing of he's just a puppet.
And you don't believe in fake Melania either.
I've never even heard that. I've
never heard of it. Oh
no.
My God, Sean. You got to listen to the show.
Why would we
did
have
the whole
fake
thing
Melania?
on this? Because sometimes real Melania doesn't want to be anywhere. She don't want to be doing the thing, whatever the junket or the press event or the special appearance. She don't want to have anything to do with it. So they bring in a Melania double or a Joe double. Can't really do a Trump double, but they bring a double out and they have fake Melania or fake Joe. They really need a fake Brigitte because the real one clearly has had enough of it.
Yeah.
I love the idea that our politics, our culture has degenerated to the point where we can just bring out a body double, not just to make appearances, but to actually run the country for 2 years. And, it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. And we just kind of keep going on, the days of statesmen and people who knew what they were doing is just so yesterday, so overrated. So I was amused by that. Although the guy who I'm finding hardest to track nowadays is Bill Maher.
Yeah,
and,
Bill Maher.
Who used to be pretty hard left and now just seems to be slowly drifting rightward and realizing, God, a lot of this stuff that I used to talk about doesn't make any sense anymore.
Well, I think people like Bill, Elon Musk has said it. I think a lot of these individuals, even what's the sports guy, Stephen A. Smith.
Oh, God.
But Stephen A. Smith lately has been.
He and the Whistler need to hang out together.
I get it. But my point is that if you've listened to some of his clips lately, he's been doing a lot of the same things that Maher has been doing, and that obviously Elon, where they're like, look, these far extreme leftist positions that you're taking about, men competing in women's sports, you realize that you have taken the Democratic Party and you have moved it so far left that people that were left are now centrist.
Yeah, we'll never win an election with that. Right.
But they're putting, this Crockett woman out there and AOC as, they're going to be the next president of the United States of America. Are you kidding me? And of course, every Republican's just like, please do that.
More of that, please. Speaking of Elon Musk, he finally left.
Supposedly.
Well, yeah, he didn't say that he's left.
Have you seen all this stuff about him doing drugs?
I don't believe a word of that.
Really?
No, because the guy has the same kind of shocking work schedule that only a founder can have. He will sleep at the Tesla factory. He'll just sleep there for days at a time. And as soon as he wakes up, he's working, and he works and works and works until it's time to go to sleep. He'll eat, for for lunch, he'll eat something for 10 minutes. And then the guy just, all he cares about is work. And that kind of guy is not a drug guy. He's not looking, his work is his escape. Work is all that he cares about, which is part of what I thought made Doge such an interesting story. Was all of those guys were pretty much running the same kind of hours schedule. And the stories were that they were working like 20-hour days and loving it. What's interesting, though, is this guy has gotten so much, security clearance, private government information. I mean, just more than anybody could ever get. And now he's back in the private world, and what's to be done with that or about that? Because he knows all the secrets. He knows where all the governmental bodies are buried. And that part of it is interesting to me. The other thing that was interesting is how ultimately ineffectual he was when the idea was the government budget is $7 trillion, which I find it easier to think of it as 7,000 $1 billion buckets. If you had a bucket, like one of those 5-gallon buckets, and that's $1 billion. So we'll paint 1B on it and put 70 of them out in a parking lot or a football field somewhere. Okay, you're going to have 7,000 of those buckets. That's what $7 trillion looks like. And he was going to cut 1,000 of those $7,000 buckets. He was going to cut $1 trillion off the $7 trillion budget. And when it was all said and done, he didn't get 1,000. He got 150 of those buckets, and that was working at maximum capacity. And it kind of indicates that somebody who took the biggest axe to the federal budget of anybody in the last, what would you say, 50 years, 100 years? And
do we know that all this stuff has truly been cut?
Well, that's the problem. Is 150 was baked into the big, beautiful tax bill, as they're now calling it. But is it really going to happen that money doesn't get spent? I don't know. And which underlines the point that I'm making. You can't cut the federal budget. I mean, it cannot be done. Nobody can do it. It would take somebody being a president for 4 terms to ever just be able to wait out all the challenges in federal court, and all the injunctions and getting the Supreme Court rulings and getting rid of the agency people that are out to keep the spigot going. It would just take forever. And the idea that he's going to come in and in 130 days that he's going to cut 1/7 off the budget, I mean, that's just a fantasy. It can't be done. I was or am reading, I can't remember if I mentioned this, I'm reading a Nixon, it's not so much a biography, but it's kind of a running transcript taken from the recordings that Nixon was making and the notes that Nixon was making. Have you read anything about Nixon when he was president?
Yeah, a lot.
I find him to be a really, really interesting guy because he spent hours every day by himself, not in the Oval Office, in the executive office building, which is a separate building, holed up in a room with yellow legal pads because he was a lawyer, just writing notes.
About what?
About whatever issue he was trying to figure out. And there are just, I mean, you could fill a warehouse with all the yellow pads of him just making notes and refining his ideas, especially if he had to
What'd they
give
do
a
with all
big
the notes?
speech. They've got them. That's welcome to the Nixon Library. And I say that to say what I'm reading is kind of a month by month. Here's what he was talking about. Here, okay, did they win? No, they still haven't won yet.
No, they've already won. That's a delay.
Okay.
There it is.
Yeah.
Boom.
Oh, no.
No. Oh, my God. Well, damn. well, now they get to play some more Ole Miss baseball. That's what we all wanted. But it's this kind of month-to-month excerpts of either recordings or these yellow pad notes where he's trying to figure out what his thoughts are, what the programs are. And a constant theme of it is the federal bureaucracy is immovable. It's just immovable. And yes, I'm the president, but how do I make the bureaucracies the federal agencies do what I want them to do instead of what the people who are there have decided to do? Can't fire them. Can't really direct them. And after the APA, the Administrative Procedures Act, was passed, it is really hard to change the regulations.
Well, just the civil servant protections are.
Yeah.
I mean, they're huge.
Yeah, they're huge. So, like I say, you can't fire them, you can't discipline them, and they just do what they want to do. And yes, I get to appoint their head, and I get to appoint the subheads of each agency, but to turn the ship takes a decade. And I'm not going to be here for a decade. And he was just massively frustrated. And I thought that what's interesting about that is not just the point that he's making, but the fact that he's making these notes over 50 years ago, and how much more entrenched is everything now. And then when somebody like Musk or Doge comes along and tries to cut them, the screaming as if, oh my God, you remember this? All the children are going to starve. We're not going to have any more medical research because of these cuts.
Oh, I saw did you see where Bono was on?
Oh my God. Tell that story.
No, but he was on with Rogan. And Rogan kind of put him in his place and was like, you don't know what you're talking about, brother. And he was talking about all those, the $93 billion after Biden lost the election in that short window of time.
Right.
They just gave $93 billion away.
Right. And they said they were throwing it overboard.
Well, yeah. And did you see what happened, what came out this week? Now, I mean, I saw it on News Nation. I saw it somewhere else first, but then Thursday night, News Nation they actually had a congressman on, and they had a whole section or segment on it, and that is this farm loan issue. Have you seen any of this?
I think I missed this.
Okay, so Biden instructed, essentially, there was one of the bills that I think got passed in 2021. It had this very vague language that essentially had to do with loan forgiveness, okay? And if you were somehow socially disenfranchised, you could get a loan forgiveness. Well, they had this unwritten policy where they forgave loans for every minority farmer in the country. And they had a strict no white man loan forgiveness. And so there's a whistleblower that's come out and it's broken the news and it's out there. And there's been confirmation that this policy was in place. And, of course, the data, I mean, you have this whistleblower and you're like, okay, well, what does that mean? Well, if in fact you cannot find a white farmer that has been completely, disenfranchised from this policy, so to speak, it's a problem.
It reminds me of the joke. When are the white people going to get a fair shake in this country? When are white people going to finally have some political power? They've done without it for 250 years. It's
but this notion
terrible.
this notion that oh well, you can't speak up about it is really, in my opinion, is really harmful to this country.
Well,
that if something happens to a white person, that if you say anything about it, you're automatically perceived to be a racist, a bigot, whatever, and there's an attempt to cancel you because you've stood up and said this isn't right.
Well, I always go back to John Roberts' little quote. I don't remember what case it was, where he said, the way to stop racial discrimination is to stop discriminating on the basis of race. I think it was one of the college cases where they were discriminating. But it's the same idea.
That's the whole thing that happened with Harvard and North Carolina, where they were admitting all of these people based on race.
Right.
And they
especially
said,
University of California.
You can't do that.
And yet, funny how things still go on, which brings me all the way back to Bill
Maher in Harvard.
Why I have a hard time pronouncing Maher. Talking about how Harvard is an a-hole factory, which he would know. I guess he runs into more Harvard people than I do, but I did not know that there was this much of an antipathy to the Ivy Leagues elsewhere. But apparently they're just furious, absolutely furious with them. So Wall Street Journal has been running articles every day about the war between Harvard and the other Ivy Leagues and the Trump administration over the, cutting the grant, cutting the aids, cutting the international students versus rights of free speech. And I'm really curious how it's going to play out, because it's all going to be parked in front of the Supreme Court within a year from now.
Well, it's already getting parked in front of the Supreme Court.
So, which it makes me wonder how long until some president says what Andrew Jackson says 20 years ago or 200 years ago. Supreme Court's made a ruling. Now let's see him enforce it. And I mean, who is out there to make a president follow a Supreme Court ruling? Which, speaking of Nixon, was kind of the problem that he was having in 1970.
Well, that's kind of what's going on with this, MS-13 guy down in Honduras or wherever the hell he is. I don't know where he is. They're just completely ignoring the direction to bring him back.
Yeah. What are you going to do about it? You go get him, Judge. The last thing that I had on the list, and I thought this is the story that I'm kind of shocked isn't being as widely reported, and maybe I'm just buying into hype that isn't true. But I'll just give you the bullet point information. There's a leaked European Union report that China is a gigantic secondary buyer to evade sanctions. You know how that works. Where you have sanctions that are now in place that say you can't buy Russian oil, you can't buy certain rare earth minerals from Russia. And so what happens to evade those sanctions, Russia sells to China, and then China sells Russian oil, Russian rare earth minerals, in addition to Chinese. And, what's the difference between a Russian mineral and Chinese mineral? You can't tell. And so the report is coming out that China is helping Russia evade the sanctions, as well they might, because Russia's going bankrupt. And the stories were...
in part because of the sanctions?
Oh, gigantically because of the sanctions, and because they're not winning a war.
China's in financial trouble right now.
Yeah, but and that might talk about that in a moment.
Which would exacerbate the Russian problem.
You saw 1/3 of the strategic bombers at an airfield in western Russia got bombed by drones last night, kind of like a Pearl Harbor attack on the Pacific Fleet, but it was
honestly,
I
saw something on Twitter and I just scrolled right past it.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
I have so much fatigue over this issue.
Oh, it's to me amazing that a near superpower or former superpower can't knock out little Ukraine. Like, everybody just expected this to be a walkover. And now, like you say, in between the sanctions and the 40% of the GDP is being spent on some version of the military, that they're no longer paying everybody their Russian equivalent of Social Security checks. Banks are being, and I'm just going to go through the bullet point list, banks being required to make forced loans to the defense industry at interest rates over 20%. 20% for a commercial loan, which will never be repaid. So that bank depositors are looking at like a 1999 run on the banks because banks are going broke because
like you're
they're
talking about
having
the
to
run
make
that they
forced
had in
loans.
Russia.
Right. They are there is not yet a run on Russian banks, but Russian bank stocks are dropping off of a cliff when they're publicly traded outside of Russia.
So my question
because
would
they
be,
don't have an FDIC. They don't have secured
it's not back,
deposits.
right? So I mean, if let's say Russia were to have another huge economic issue that happened all those years ago when everybody was standing in bread lines, whatever,
Right.
how would that affect us? Because I don't recall it ever really having much of an effect on us.
Well, Russia,
back then.
but they were bailed out. In the currency crisis, they were bailed out. You remember the Mexican dollar crisis?
Yeah.
When they were bailed out during the Clinton administration, there would be a gigantic move by international banking to shore up the Russian economy so that it didn't pull everybody over the same cliff as Russia. But the war would come to a screeching halt because they would not be able to finance it anymore unless China wanted to pick up the tab for financing not just the war, but the entire Russian economy, which would make Russia a client state of China. And I don't know that either country really wants to go. I don't think China wants Russia as a client state. Russia certainly doesn't want to become one. And the EU couldn't tolerate that because they're scared enough of Russia as it is. And if Russia just became a client of China, that would really be scary to them. So, no, they'll stop it before it gets too bad. But apparently the way that the war is going to end is Russia just, kind of like Germany in 1918, they just run out of money and foodstuffs.
Run out of bullets.
They run out of the means of making war. And then what happens?
You know when you get your nose open when you're gambling? Do you know when you stop gambling? When you run out of the bullets.
Yeah.
You got no more money to throw at it.
When you got no money, that's when you stop gambling. Well, that's, and that's the problem, which knowing all of that to apparently be the truth, and, maybe it's all just propaganda that I've fallen into the trap and believe things that I shouldn't. But knowing all that to be the case, amazing to me that Trump is trying to negotiate a peace deal that includes getting the Donbass, what's the peninsula, the Crimea,
handed back over.
That Russia gets to keep both of those regions that are primarily Russian speaking, keep them out of the EU, keep Ukraine out of NATO, and Putin has said no to all of that. If he's really staring at a bankruptcy that's less than 3 months away, the guy's a hell of a poker player, or else he knows something that the world's economy doesn't know. Russian bank stocks, there's only two that I know of. I looked them up, and they are now down. One of them was down 29% from where it was at the beginning of the year. 29%.
Did you ever see Chernobyl? The
I
HBO
saw the
series?
movie. Yeah, really interesting. Yeah.
The HBO series was, it's up there to me as one of the best TV shows. I mean, it's top 25 TV shows of all time. Just a great story. But I've read significant amount about Chernobyl and really what happened. I have a client who has nuclear facilities, and so I have some knowledge and understanding about kind of what was going on and the different types of reactors that they have. But the biggest problem that they had at the time was that no one wanted to tell,
right,
Gorbachev what was going on,
right,
because they were so afraid to give him any bad news. Well, remember, Putin wants to go back to, and his whole attempt over the last 20 years is to go back to that form of government where everyone is afraid to tell him bad news. I say all that to say it would not surprise me in the least that, he's not getting the correct information about banks. We already know that he wasn't getting correct information about the war.
No,
clearly not. Well, when remember his general in charge of the war, that whole debacle came down. He was getting incorrect information about the war, and they're like, we're getting our ass kicked down here. And so Putin, kind of they navigated through that, but he's not getting all the information. There's no way he is. I just think that they're filling him full of a bunch of dog shit.
Well, that's always the problem with a dictatorship is it's impossible for the truth about what's going on to get to the top because nobody wants to be the guy. Nobody wants to be the bearer of bad news because that's a good way to get killed. And so everybody just dummies up and
as we learned in Star Wars, you get killed.
That's right.
If you don't do something right, you get killed.
There you go. Well, that's words to live by, America. Appreciate everybody joining us. Ole Miss plays again. And are they going to play at 8:00 tonight or some crazy hour?
Typically, I think it would be like a double header.
My God, they're going to be playing past midnight.
So. My guess is that they'll probably retool up in about 30 minutes.
Oh, well, that's too much for me. Well, thanks to everybody who joined us. Thanks for paying attention, Sean.
Yes.
It means much to me.
Yes.
We'll see y'all next time.